Hey, what's going on, people? All right. It is Wednesday night. You know what it is, right? It is Wednesday with West time. So I'm Donovan Hitchmaster West, and welcome to another episode of Wednesdays with West, where we talk about all things relationships. Pumpkin from Pluto, what up? Pretty Sexy, what up? Say what's up. Lydia.
Oh.
Say hi to the people.
Hi, everyone. Can you take the camera off me now? Thank you.
All right. Some of y'all wonder who Lydia is. That's Lydia. Lydia helps out. Okay, good people. So, you already know it is Wednesday night, and I'm wondering what you're thinking about as it relates to relationships. We want to talk about what's love got to do with it. That's the topic. But as you already know, we don't just talk about the topic. We want to make sure that if there's a question that you have, if there's something that you've been talking about at the water cooler, in your living room, I don't know, at your girlfriend's house, your boy's house, what was it? What were the things you guys were talking about as it relates to relationships? All right. As you already know, we just came out of Valentine's weekend, right? Valentine's was on Friday. And so, some people may have extended it, right? It also turned into our President's Weekend. So, for those of you who have jobs or businesses where you observe the holiday, it turned into a nice long weekend. So, what are some of the things that you guys did? What are some of the things you guys talked about as it relates to relationships? I'd like to hear that. Of course, you already know that if for whatever reason you can't share that via, this thread, you can shoot us a DM, and Lydia will be able to catch that and share that with me. But we want to talk about all things relationships this Wednesday, from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. All questions are good questions, so I'd like to hear from you, right? We want to make sure that this is reflective and not prescriptive. So shout out to everybody that's joined me so far. Pretty Sexy, Pumpkin from Pluto, Big Man Culture, what's going on? Miss Jessie, baby, what up? Real American Beauty, I see you. So what do we want to talk about this evening? I'm all ears. Talk to me. Tell me something, all right? I'd like to hear from you as opposed to just talk at you. By the way, if you have a question or a comment or whatever, you can feel free to go ahead and invite yourself, and you can ask that question or make that comment face to face, and I'll allow you to go live with me. All right? Because there's no reason why we can't share the stage, if you will. So, what say you on the topic of relationships? Again, as I mentioned, there's no category or status that is not honored here. So it doesn't matter if you're single, separated, married, divorced, in a situation, celibate, out there, no judgment zone over here. Okay. So we want to hear from you. What is it that you have to say on the topic of relationship? Maybe it's a question that you have and you would like another perspective. I'm here to serve. Okay. So anyway, the topic for this evening is what's love got to do with it? And I'd like to hear, what are the thoughts that you have as we talk about this topic? I'd like to hear from you and get your perspective on it. But, in the meantime, in between time, you already know, what say you on relationships? Do you have a question? Do you have a situation that you'd like me to provide another perspective on? I'm all ears. And at the end of the day, if for whatever reason everybody's real shy, I have my trusty bag of random and anonymous questions. Shout out to PYT.net. What's going on? Babes, what's going on? I see you ready for relationships. I see you. I see everybody there. Okay. So ask some questions. Ask away. Allie, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. All right. So, what say you on this topic of relationships? You got any questions? Any comments? Anything that took place? Anything that we didn't talk about last week as we were preparing for Valentine's. Well, now that Valentine's is behind us, what say you? All right. Pumpkin says Valentine's Day was spent self-loving. How about you, Mr. West? Well, I actually spent a great deal of time with my mom, actually. So, I saw her Friday, saw her Saturday, saw her Sunday, just making sure that I was there for her. So I really did spend a lot of time with my mom. I know that's not as sexy and all intimate as maybe somebody might be thinking out there, but that's what I really did, just needed to be there for her. And she's going through a tough time. Shout out to you, Mom. But I was right there on her side. So that's what I did this past weekend. So if anybody else has something you want to share about your weekend, what did you do? Again, as I mentioned in my post, I'm not sure if you saw it on the relationship script. I talked about how Valentine's Day should really be more of a day that you look at as like your New Year's Day for your heart. And it doesn't have to just be extended just to your significant other, so to speak, but also your family and friends. But tonight we're talking about all things relationships. So it doesn't matter what your status is, doesn't matter what your situation is. We just want to hear from you as it relates to, relationships. Was there something you talked about with your boys? What's going on, C Pride? I see you. Thanks for joining us. Or was it something you talked about with your girlfriends? Something at the job, at the water cooler? As you were talking about your weekend shenanigans. Anything out there? I'm listening, all right? So Pretty 60 says, is there such a thing as being too honest in a relationship? I don't think so. I think that, when you talk about being too honest, often is, you're referring to how you communicated whatever it is that you're honest about. So I would say that, one of my favorite quotes of all time is, tact is the knack for making a point without making an enemy. And the reason why that's so important to me is because often I find myself in a situation where I do need to communicate something, in honesty. And I'm always wondering, well, how best can I really communicate it? Now, remember something, just because you are very tactful in your communication, the content is still the content, right? And so you could be telling someone, you know what? I know you brush your teeth. I know you gargle. I know you floss. But, maybe there might be something chemical going on with you. I don't know. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. At the end of the day, right, that person is still going to find some offense. So, that's unfortunate. Certain topics are going to be offensive regardless of how tactful you are. It doesn't change, though, that you make every attempt to be very tactful about what it is you're talking about. So in terms of lying, that's a slippery slope, right? It's very subjective in terms of what you should lie about, because again, you're going to say, you wanted to protect someone, and that just gets real crazy. So if you're being convicted of being too honest, I would simply say just think about one simple thing, and that is how you're actually delivering the honest content. Other than that, keep rocking out being honest and move forward. All right. Sinise, what's going on? I see you. Thanks for joining us. All right. Thank you very much for the prayers, man. I appreciate you, good brother. Looking forward to holding it down with you in a couple of weeks over at the church. All right. Lydia says, how do we renew our heart as you suggest? Well, how do we renew our heart? The number one way, right? The first way that we do it is we forgive ourselves. We often overlook that. Sometimes people say, well, you just pray on it. Yeah, it's very hard to do that, because when you do pray on it, you may say, well, I pray that God will do this or do that or work on me. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you really need to, in order to actually, renew your heart, you got to focus on, the things that are going on within you, and actually have a conversation with yourself. That means, some introspection, some reflection, and that's really important that you do that. So renewing your heart starts with taking inventory of what's going on, and then identifying the things that actually, motivate you, that inspire you, that give you life, right? That make you feel something, and then getting reconnected to those things, whether it may be certain activities, whether it may be a certain individual. Just make sure that you reconnect so that you can renew. All right. So, Aya, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. DePond, what's going on? Thank you very much. On the topic of being too honest, are there some things better left unsaid? Well, when it comes to things that are better left unsaid, you got to give me some examples. Often, we think that we're doing the best thing by not talking about certain things. However, the problem is that with that other person that is not, that we're not talking to about that certain thing, we give them agency, meaning we give them the right to interpret our gestures or to even interpret whatever's taking place. So, for instance, if I were talking about clothing, and you said, what, I don't even think I want to put it out there what I really think about what this person is wearing. However, then you go somewhere and this person is confronted by someone else, about something, and they look at you like, I knew you would have said something to me if there was something wrong, and you said, well, I just thought I'd just leave it alone because you're too sensitive, or X, Y, and Z. At that point, you really start to now create a bigger gap in communication as opposed to anything else, because now you don't have any trust in that situation. So that's just an example, but often is the case, we find ourselves where we feel like we better not say anything or leave it unsaid. And in more cases than not, it turns out to actually manifest into something bigger. So if there's something to say about it, say it. Test out the waters, and then if there's an issue in terms of how you're saying it or someone being extra sensitive about that, then address the fact that they're extra sensitive about it. But don't let it change who you are in terms of how you would normally communicate with a person. When you start to shut down as a result of some of that kind of behavior and activity, that's a problem, because now you're turning into someone that you shouldn't really be. All right? Don't change your level of communication to suit someone else because they may be too sensitive. Identify why they may be sensitive, and if you can communicate in a way that won't be as abrasive and they still are sensitive about it, well, then now you guys just have a fundamental communication problem. But it doesn't mean that the suggestion is that you just say less, because now you start to repress some of your thoughts and your feelings, and now that begins the chasm between you and that individual. More than likely, you'll start sharing those same thoughts and opinions and feelings with someone else. And there you go. There you have it. Emotional infidelity has now transpired. All right. Abin, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. All right. Daishawn, what's going on? Ali says, I went to my cousin's Super Bowl party. 3 days later, my cousin's boy is blowing up my phone all Valentine's week. And after Valentine's, I'm not interested or attracted to the guy. Should I be mad at at your cousin? Should you be mad at your cousin for giving the boy your number? You should be mad at him, but forgive him. He was just trying to hook you up, but you should make sure that he helps to fix it. You're in an uncomfortable situation, and at this point you feel harassed. If you communicated that you're not interested and he continues, well, now it's your cousin's responsibility to make sure that he does that. All right, he's got to cut it down, and it's his responsibility at this point. All right. Sanice says, my friend Annette F. told me to check you out. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Sanice. Annette, thank you very much. Miss Finley, I appreciate the support. And welcome to the family, Sanice. If you're just now tuning in, if this is the first time you've been here, this is called, Wednesdays with Wes. I'm Donovan Hitchmaster West. And every Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., we talk about all things relationships. What I like to do is offer, additional perspectives on different topics in this realm of relationships. And, of course, in between our events, because we do events, we like to make sure that we stay in touch. So I am happy to announce that we will be in Orlando sometime within, I would say, the next 60 days. We're working out some of the details, and we'll give you the details as soon as we lock in that venue and some other components of the logistics. All right? Cool. So, Ali, so I hope you got everything you needed in terms of that response. Jose, thanks for joining us, good brother. We appreciate that. Killer K, what up? What's going on? Father Drew, what's going on? All right, we're talking about all things relationships. How was your Valentine's Day, your Valentine's weekend, depending on your situation? Do you have any questions or comments or anything as it relates to anything we've been talking about? I'm all ears, all right? So, Julia, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. D-Val, what's going on? Guest 716, what's going on? All right, I really appreciate that. So, we're talking about all things relationships. I love your questions, all right? So, please ask them. If you don't know, I'm not one of those guys who functions in this space and just preaches at you. That's not what this is about. This is about making sure that at the end of the day, your questions, your concerns are answered. So, I take what you call a reflective approach and not a prescriptive approach to talking about some of these topics. Now, we do have topics to discuss. We can definitely do that. But what I love to do is make sure that in between all of that, any question you have, right, ask it. No question is a bad question, by the way. And so for whatever reason, if the question you have, you think it's a little too risky, you don't want to be associated with it, feel free, of course, to reach out to us in between these Wednesdays with Wes with a DM with your question, and we'll just ask the question or post a question on this thread without your name attached to it. All right, just letting you know that we can always get to you. All right, Albert, thanks for joining us. Appreciate that. PYT says, how does our love language play a role in how we deal with adversity in our relationship, specifically when we stay, when we stay for personal gain? Well, that's, when you stay for personal gain, which is, I guess it's human, right? We stay for personal gain, and sometimes the personal gain can just be convenience, right? Not necessarily for love, but sometimes it's just, it's about the devil that we know, so to speak, for lack of a better term. But our love language, right, becomes the bridge, so to speak, that gives us hope. So when someone is, when we're in a relationship and that person, we're not feeling them right now. And if they know our love language, right, this is their opportunity to demonstrate their love language as a way, as an olive branch, so to speak, to give us hope in the idea that this relationship can last, right? And if they are unable to do that, well, that becomes now an example of why you should break up. In many instances, that's what you're going to do. You're going to say, well, they're not doing what they need to do in order to keep me engaged. And so, you know what? My other foot is out the door. And so your love language can be the bridge when it comes to, troubled waters, so to speak. And if they don't demonstrate they don't take that opportunity to demonstrate your love language, that they have mastery of your love language, then it's going to backfire. When your significant other does demonstrate, mastery of your love language, that becomes now something that helps you out, because you realize as you're contemplating, right, getting back into the, single scene or whatever may be the case, you start to think about, well, now I have to start over, right? Or no one is going to know me as much as this person. And so these things do become material in some of your thoughts for many who may actually fear being alone or fear having to go through the process and it taking a very long time to get to the place where they are now. So I hope I answered your question satisfactorily. Allie says, okay, I got another one for you. I went out to lunch with a male colleague, and he began eating out of my plate and food sharing. He's married. Is food sharing too much? I'm going to say, yeah, food sharing can be too much. It can be. Let me say this much. There are places you go where they have big family style plates or shareable plates. And in that case, him having a little bit of your food and you having a little bit of what he ordered, that's different. Now, if you got your own little plate to yourself and he starts picking in your plate, that's a problem, because for me, at least, because your fork was in your mouth. Your mouth was with your mate. I don't need any cross-pollination. You feel me? So, if you're interested in something in my plate, let me go ahead and get a utensil that's nice and clean and clear, and I'll go ahead and pass it off and put it onto your plate or something to that effect. If you and that person, you and that colleague were, super Joe cool and all that other good stuff, and they may feel like this is, you're like family, and he may be looking at you like a sister or something, that's different. Again, if that's something that you guys have as an understanding, like you guys are like brother, sister, so to speak, and you can function that same kind of way in front of his wife or if in front of your boyfriend, your husband. If it's that transparent, then I would say you have something that is more familial and you're okay with that. But I would say right on the surface, when somebody's in your plate and they have somebody and y'all sharing stuff like that at lunch, calm down. Tell everybody pause and back up, reestablish some boundaries, and go ahead and order that other plate. If you are interested in what's on my plate, go ahead and order a second dish. All right. Calm before the storm. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. Lydia says, my co-workers and I share food all the time. We offer it up easy enough without saliva swap. Yeah. I mean, again, you offer it and make sure that you don't, but when you start saying, oh, what's that? Let me get some. No. Pause. What are you doing? No, we not. Who? I'm sorry. I can only see you during work hours, right? We not. No. We're not doing that. So, make sure that when someone does that, you just kindly say, hey, listen, congratulations. The rest of the plate is yours. I hope you enjoy it. And waiter, waitress, I'll have Yeah, I'll have that again. We're going to try this again without the interruption. Thank you. All right, so that's what we're going to do right there in that situation. All right, Just Jackie, thanks for joining us. Kara, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. All right. So Ali says, yes, I have my own little plate. He put his chopsticks in my bowl. Whoa. Pause on that. You know, that right there is very figurative. So again, just be careful, all right? Make sure that if he did it in that situation, he may try to do it in another situation, all right? No chopsticks at all, okay? Put it back in the bowl that you got at home, all right? All right. PYT says, hey, Caribbean people don't share their oxtail, so that will end the friendship. All right, you got to put this all out there, right? That's true, though, but you don't, I mean, come on, you just now putting out that stereotype, but it's real. Don't touch my oxtail, all right? I promise you, it's a wrap. You know, if you don't want me to talk to you again, you will eat some of my oxtail, all right? Don't violate my plate, all right? Anyway, moving right along. So yeah, Pumpkin says it sounds like flirting. It can be that, very much so. But again, there are a lot of people that do share plates, and that's not a culturally, sharing plates is not a strange thing to do at all. Especially, a lot of people when they work together for long periods of time, they may feel more like family. As a matter of fact, you spend a lot of time, in most cases, more with them than you do your own family. So it's not strange that you could actually be in a situation where someone is going to go in your plate or will like that, because people grow up different kinds of ways. And so that may be strange to you. It may just be normal to someone else. The key is that you reestablish boundaries, because what are your boundaries? Clearly, their boundaries are not yours. And so you want to reestablish yours before it gets a little too crazy, all right? Anyway, so Lydia's talking about y'all too extra, food share friends and lovers, all this. Yeah, but the reality is that food is also a very, very intimate thing for many people. So share food. Food is like again, I'm just going to leave it right there. All right? Y'all get it. So Ali, you said, Miss Lydia, there is attraction. I won't lie. Uh-oh. See, Ali's telling the truth now. See? So when there's attraction, sometimes, while there may not be anything that goes on after that, people are always testing boundaries to see how far they can go. And so, little gestures like, chopsticks in your bowl. Yeah, that can actually, yeah, that way. Anyway, moving right along. So you guys have questions, comments? I'm listening, all ears, all right? So at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to make sure that all questions, all, comments, we want to hear it. We want to hear it. This is reflective and not prescriptive. And I'm Donovan, here to serve you. So ask your questions away. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that this is serving your needs and we're not just preaching to you, okay? As you already know, tonight's topic, I want to hear from you guys. What's love got to do with it? What does that mean to you? What does love got to do with it? So, but thank you, Love times 3 and Hopeful, for joining us. We're just getting started, all right? PYT says, food is a key to any good personal and business relationship. We make business deals and learn about each other, including family, over a good meal. Absolutely. I can't tell you, here at the African American Chamber of Commerce for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, I am on tour all day, and I can't tell you how many times there's a breakfast meeting, there's a brunch meeting, there's a lunch meeting, there's a snack meeting, there's a dinner meeting, and I have to just be on my P's and Q's. But the reality is the reason why there's so many meetings over food is that many times, people, as they're getting to know me and in my organization, we're breaking bread, and it's definitely something that culturally, you just got to get used to. But I'm gonna tell you this much: go ahead and use your chopsticks and try to get something out of my bowl. Nah, bruh. Nah, sis. Nah, nobody. That's not happening. Anyway, moving right along, all right? I know we're talking too much about this food situation. But, so Pumpkin says, what's love got to do with it? Question mark. Mr. West. I'm asking you, silly. Hello? It's my topic, so I want to hear from you guys. I got my thoughts on it, right? What's love got to do with it? I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts? What are your questions around this topic? What's love got to do with it, right? PYT says, love is a snack. No, she didn't say it. Sorry. I saw Allie said snack. Love is a gift and a curse. Love can be the best feeling in the world and the worst feeling. True. Love is everything. So what are your other thoughts around that? Like, what's love got to do with it? Is love enough? Huh? In my opinion, well, I'm not going to even say my opinion yet. I'd like to hear from you guys. Is love enough? When you say what's love got to do with it, is it in relationship to a specific situation? Or what's love got to do overall with whether or not we should actually be together? What are your thoughts about that, huh? If you guys have a specific thought, anybody want to go live, you want to invite yourself on the live, you go ahead and do that, and I'd love to, share the stage with you, if you will. Lydia says, love can be toxic. How do we let go when it's toxic and intoxicating? That's a good one, right? A lot of things that are toxic are intoxicating, right? That's a very good one. So how do we do that? We do that by way of discernment. And discernment meaning, like, what is it that you're really in this for? Are you in this for the short game or the long game? One of the major components, the major, elements or ingredients in success, and on any level, personal, professional, is discipline, gratification deferred. And so often when we think about things that are intoxicating, right, they're intoxicating because why? We're engaged in it, right, to actually be gratified right now, which may actually lead to what your answer is. If you're focused on so much the intoxicating nature of the relationship, then it means you may want to be engaged and entertained right now. But how much of what that person presents is actually something for the long haul in terms of your relationship? I'd like to hear more from you guys. I see some other comments. Comment Before the Storm says, I fall hard for nice men. What should I do to not fall for a man easily? Well, you say you fall for nice men. I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, the question is are they still nice when you fall for them, right? So what seems to be the problem when it comes to that? What should I do to not fall for a man, I guess not easily or so easily? I think, just ask yourself these questions, What is it about the individual that makes you fall, right? That makes you feel like you're falling for them, and that are those things bad things? If they're not, then I don't think there's an issue. Now, at the end of the day, my question is, what are the blind spots, right? What are the things about that same individual do you later identify as it, not working out, not being a good fit, so to speak? And that's really where the question lies, is that not so much in them being a nice person or the things that you fall for, not so much as that, but the heaviest thing for you to actually lift up is that the idea around what is it that you're missing, that blind spot. What is it that you don't see as you're dealing with this individual, or is there a pattern in terms of the people in your past that you've dated, that you've fallen for? Is there a pattern in terms of this common area, or deficiency, or challenge that you have later on down the line? Think about that some more. All right. There's so many different dynamics to love. Absolutely, there are. Obviously, love does not necessarily mean automatically that you're going to be with that person. Especially as we get more mature, you can love someone and realize, well, I do love you, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be, it's going to be, happily ever after, right? So that's something to, it's very hard. It's a very hard pill to swallow, isn't it? Because, you're like, well, I love this person. Why are we still struggling so much? Well, love is a component, right? And it's a major component to relationship, but is it enough, right? So I'm listening, you guys. What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear more. So PYT says, love is not enough when someone's actions show the love is not reciprocated. Toxic love or self-serving love. People use feelings to manipulate. True. So, if they are not reciprocating it, though, does that mean that you should stop loving them? Is it toxic because they're not reciprocating it? Isn't the greatest form of love love for love's sake, not love for, a return on interest, return on investment of love, right? Isn't quid pro quo love, this for that love, a failed and flawed love? So if someone doesn't reciprocate the love back, does it make it toxic? Is it toxic because of how you're now looking at it? You have this expectation, and so it manifests itself now in terms of some level of resentment. You feel exposed. Just some thoughts to think about, some thoughts to kind of, to entertain as we go a little deeper on this topic, right? Oscar, thank you for joining us. Appreciate that. Pretty 60 says, love is a feeling, is not enough. The feeling is not enough, excuse me. Love translated into actions and reciprocated can be enough. Okay, that's another opinions, right? So when you talk about, again, we just talked about it being reciprocated, right? Interesting. So so basically we're saying that love has a shelf life, right? And the oxygen for love to continue to exist is that when love is also being shared or reciprocated. If not, then that love is like a flower that's been freshly plucked to die soon after, right? It doesn't have any soil, right? It doesn't have any roots. So therefore, the love will die because there's nothing to actually feed it in a way of reciprocated actions. Okay. Katz, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Question came in. Lydia says, I got caught up in a love triangle. I hate the feeling, but it says, I hate the feeling of losing, failing worse. What are some real steps I can take to detach the feeling like an addiction? Well, number one, you can't avoid, the process is the process. I think often we get enamored with, or we see examples of like strong and resilient people just kind of like powering through some stuff, and and it's all done inside of like our favorite show, which is an hour long. The reality is that the process of like healing from a relationship, it takes some time. It takes some time, and you do have to go through it. It doesn't go away right away. Some of the things that you can do, obviously, is just, you got to get used to the idea that, this is actually taking place. One of the major issues when it comes to crisis, whether it's, on the emergency side of things, professionally or personally, certain personal crisis, is that we really are stuck in we're in shock that we're actually going through what we're going through. And we don't typically, embrace the fact that this is actually happening. I am actually going through this breakup, or I'm in this toxic situation and now I need to make moves, right? And by way of doing that, you got to hold yourself to be, more accountable. So yes, it's happening. What is your role in that situation? What part do you play in it? And what's your level of commitment to getting out of it? So if you're in a love triangle, you know what you need to do. And I know at the end of the day, it's easier said than done, but that's the reason why it still needs to get done. It doesn't, we're not talking about what's easy. We're talking about what must be done. And so you have to get to that place and make sure that you go through the process. It's painful, but it's part of life. And trying to avoid it, what typically happens is we drag it out. We do a lot of self-medicating in terms of, making up reasons why we should still, enjoy on some level or something to that effect. The idea of going cold turkey or shutting certain things down is just too overwhelming for us. But the reality is that we're so addicted to feeling some level of pleasure that the idea of not being in pleasure feels like pain. But that's not always the case. Just because you're not feeling that level of pleasure doesn't necessarily mean that you're in pain. It just means that you're going through withdrawal from whatever activity, behavior, individual that you're used to. All right. Pumpkin says, sadly, love is not enough. In my humble opinion, love in itself is not enough. However, when you start to think about, levels of transparency, of commitment, of desire to do the work, love can definitely function as the battery in that vehicle of your relationship. Jackie says, love is a great binder, but other things are present. Excuse me, when other things are present, right? Respect, trust, willingness to understand, and openness to be understood matter even more than love. Agreed, right? Respect, trust, willingness to understand. To understand someone is actually an act of love. The desire to understand someone is an act of love. And the reason why is that when you're trying to understand someone, that means that you are no longer thinking about yourself. You are no longer entertaining your thoughts, but you're surrendering to the idea that this person has some thoughts, ideas, and feelings that you don't know. And so that's a way of loving, because it's the action. You're giving them your time, your mind share. And so to seek to understand someone, right? You overheard that? Seek first to understand, right? That's a form of love. So outstanding comment, Jackie. PYT says, today most single men over 40 aren't looking for love. They're looking for help. Just my opinion. Ouch. It also sounds more than your opinion. It sounds like some bad experiences. PYT, keep hope alive, okay? So at the end of the day, I think that there are men that fall into that category and women that fall into that category. So I think it's a human issue. I don't think necessarily it's a man issue, but I do understand your point, and obviously you have some experience to support that. Sorry to hear it, though. Only One, thanks for joining us. Nikki, baby, I see you. Thank you for joining us. Pumpkin says, I believe love is your own, just like you have your own heart and your own head. I believe you have your own love and manage it how you choose, which is not always the best. I agree. You're human, right? So, if you're human, that means you're going to make mistakes. And more importantly, the way that you process information, the way that you rationalize some of your own behavior, it can all be locked into your thesis on life, right? To your theory, to your philosophy, to the things that you believe about life. And the problem with that, right, is that you don't really leave room for growth. So this is why it's important that you do talk to a professional or someone that you trust that has different opinions, different perspectives. Having someone in your circle that's just like, yes, they are a waste. I'm just putting it out there. If you don't talk to people that can provide you additional perspectives, then I'm not sure, what their, relevance is. It's not that you shouldn't have things in common. Absolutely. But you want to make sure that you're around people that you trust and that can also identify when you have a blind spot. All right. So, yeah, I agree. Jose, these are some great points everyone's bringing up. Ken, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Just, what's going on? I see you. Pumpkin says, I believe love is your own, like your own part. You blah, blah, blah. We may mention that. Okay, I got that. I heard that. And I believe, there you go. And I believe you can charge other people with your responsibility of love. You can change other people or charge other people. I think that, when it comes to people in your space, the more you communicate, the more you're transparent about what your love language is, how you define things that deal, that are in the realm of the relationship, how you communicate, how thoroughly you communicate, how frequently you communicate. These are all things that I believe give someone else the ability to love you the right way, according to you. Also, though, it's also important that you make sure that the fact that you communicate all this stuff doesn't mean that you're the authority. So someone may have some other ideas about love and how they like to be loved or how they like to express love, and you have to also be open to that. So remember, this is a two-way street, okay? Harry, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Hopeful says, what are your thoughts on a woman proposing to a man? Well, that's interesting that you asked that, because I think some of that took place this past Valentine's weekend. And I think that if a woman proposes to a man, it's because she understands her man is somebody who can be proposed to. And for me, if you propose to me, I'm like, wow, that just happened. I need you to get up. Real talk. So that wouldn't work. I don't think across the board you should just do it. I think at the end of the day, you should do what is actually a good representation, a good reflection of the person that you're actually getting married to. So, if you're going to go ahead and propose to him, go ahead. I think it's 2020. Why not? Now, biblically, they say that, the man should choose the wife. And at the end of the day, there's another interpretation in terms of, if she still proposed, he's not obligated to say yes. He can say yes because he also chose. But in terms of who went first, that's what happened. Who went first? It wasn't necessarily a matter of, oh, you didn't get chosen. Now, if that man says yes just because he was proposed to versus saying yes because he chooses her, that's another issue, right? That's him being a very passive person, and that's scary. So I would say right off the bat, in most cases, it's probably going to backfire, and you shouldn't do that. However, in 2020, roles and responsibilities and things of that nature, who's alpha, who's beta, who's aggressor, who's passive, they vary. And I don't think a person should actually be restricted on an old approach to getting engaged. All right. So who else we got? We got Artina, the vet joined. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate that. Jam down lady, what's going on? Mrs. Green, I see you. Thank you. Curvy girl, what's up? I see everybody here. Yeah, calm before the storm. That's right. It's not for me. Jamos, what's going on? Thanks for joining. I appreciate that. Allie says, I wouldn't propose to a man. I still believe the man is the hunter and has the upper hand. I agree that a man should be the hunter. However, there are different ways in which you can express that you want to get married. So, sometimes it doesn't have to be you on bended knee or whatever, but often the case, it's not, there are plenty of women that talk about how, we should get married. We should be married. Why? When you going to put a ring on it? That's not a proposal. I don't know what it is. We just like to dance around that. But again, there are millions of women that put that out there in terms of, wanting to get married and all that other good stuff. And the man didn't say it first. So what say you to the millions of women out there that are saying that? That's a proposal, by the way. That's you letting someone know, right? Letting your man know that you're ready to get married. And so he now responds and gets a ring and gets on his knee. And you're like, oh, he proposed to me. Pause. No. So I need everybody to just calm down for a second and just think about what typically happens. Most times, men are getting pressured from women on getting married if they haven't already, taken the initiative. And not to say that, that shouldn't happen. I'm just simply saying that women, you ladies are proposing a lot more than you really think you are. Okay? Just putting it out there. Tia, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. PYT says, asks a question. Do you feel that we throw relationships away too easily? Should we love one another as God loves and forgives us? You mentioned resilience. Should we practice this more in our relationship? I totally agree on this topic. You see, thank you, Daphne and PDQ, for joining. See, the problem is that, especially in 2020, we have very thin skin. Very thin skin. So the idea of building, deep, relevant, relationships, right? Deep, nurturing relationships, our tolerance level is very thin. Because the minute someone, pisses us off, swipe, swipe, swipe. We swipe them in our hearts, in our minds, on the phone. We're on to the next one. So I do believe that in order for a successful relationship to really, to really exist, for you to have the potential for a successful relationship, you need to be able to go through some of the mess. You need to be able to actually fight through it a little bit. So when we talk about marriage, I believe the best thing that you can do when you are, in a church setting, in a religious setting, is that you are saying to your community, to your tribe, that there are going to be trials and tribulations, but we acknowledge that we are not enough to actually keep this together. And so you're expecting that those people that came together and before God, that you were able to actually create greater accountability and also a stronger network, right? To ensure that you guys, when you fall off, you're able to get back on. That concept doesn't necessarily exist today. And that's what's most troubling about the institution of marriage and also just the overall, status of relationships. We do not go through tough times as often as as we would have in the past, because there's the idea that there's just more fish in the sea. And so this just doesn't work. As opposed to thinking about the idea that, well, maybe we're just two different people that have some areas that we need to work on. And as a result of that, let's just work on those areas. Let's compromise in certain instances. Let's really take what I would say, a growth mindset approach, right? Where we're just really trying to develop, and as opposed to, take it or leave it. This is what I am, or this is who you are, and going about our separate ways. So that's my thoughts on that. All right. Hello, Wes is the best. Thanks, Daphne. So Miss Sandra Smith, thanks for joining us. Com says, even when cheating is involved, should we forgive them? Yes. I think overall, when it comes to cheating, you should forgive your mate when it comes to that. A lot of times people are right now looking at their phone or whatever, their computer, like, what? I do think that at the end of the day, if you cheat versus if you're a cheater, the difference is that, can you slip up? Are you human? Are you going to make a mistake? Can you make a mistake? Absolutely. However, if at the end of the day, you just do this regularly and you keep getting caught, or you're just out there, you're making mistake after mistake, then you shouldn't be in that relationship, period. You're someone that got in a relationship because you didn't want to let that person go. But the reality is you're not mature enough to function in that relationship according to how you guys defined it. And so in that case, you're someone that's going to continue to violate the relationship. You need to get out. However, I believe at the end of the day, we're all flawed and we're human. And so if someone makes a mistake, you need to look into your heart in terms of looking how you can forgive them if possible. However, there's all different types of situations. So it's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all approach. All right. Lydia says, I agree with the thin skin comment. Even when dating, we need to be more accepting of people's personality quirks and things we don't love about one another, especially if the overall picture is healthy. Very good. I agree. What's the conversation about? Can I partake in it? Mr. PDQ, we're talking about all things relationship, okay? And so, when we talk about, our relationships now, are they steady? Are they, are we dashing them away so quickly? Do they have a lifespan that's normal, or are they shorter than normal? What are the things that we're dealing with? How are we communicating? These are a number of different questions that we're asking, or that are being asked and posed. And of course, at the end of the day, this is a free format, so that we we answer questions that are asked, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about, what your questions are, what your comments are. And I do my best to provide another perspective on some of these topics. Of course, the topic overall today was, what's love got to do with it, right? Is love enough? Do you need more than love for a successful relationship? And we touched on a number of different things, right? Such as, transparency, right? Communication, reciprocity, right? These are some other areas that, again, love, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, love definitely has a shelf date. Love is like a flower to some extent, right? And if it doesn't get, additional, nurturing, then it will die. And so, I believe everyone is in agreement there on that particular point. Pumpkin says, I think, though, times have to be defined. Personally, no relationship that have lasted 20 years can I sleep in different bedrooms? Can you sleep in different? I think tough times have to be defined. I agree. I mean, I think, are you going to sleep in different bedrooms? Let me put it this way, because as I read your comment, it takes me to a couple of couples that I've coached in the past, and I will say this much, that there are seasons in relationships where it may feel like it may seem like it's done, it's a wrap, and I do believe that it takes both parties to actually be in a space where they can say, you know what, I'm tired, but I'm not done. And so sometimes, being in a separate bedroom, Sometimes, having a season where, you're not talking as much, you're fighting, you're just you're not on the same page. Just understanding that it's a season helps with the resilience of your relationship overall. And I believe at the end of the day, deep, meaningful relationships are about having a level of perspective, right? A level perspective to say, you know what, this is a season. If we're not seeing eye to eye, perhaps this is a season. However, you hear me say this word all the time, discernment. Being able to say, you know what, I need to be able to discern between my ego and actually my purpose, right? And in that case, you may say to yourself, you know what, I know we can make it. I know we can get through this. But is that as a result of what? Of you just saying, by all means, we're just going to fight through this and make this work? That's a beautiful trait. However, there are times and situations when we have a blind eye to some of the toxicity that may exist in a relationship. And in certain instances, two people should not be together, period. That's just what it is. And it takes for you to actually be in a space where you're willing to question some of your perspectives on something and say, you know what, are we clashing heads forever just for the sake of saying that we're together, or are we in a tough season? And I believe that time and patience helps to kind of say, you know what, we've tried it, we've gone through counseling, coaching, different activities, being more transparent, blah, blah, blah. When you do everything that you can, then it becomes a lot clearer. However, the goal is to make sure that you give it enough time and don't abruptly abort the relationship. All right? So Daphne says, everyone needs a little grace and mercy. I agree. Child, thanks for joining us. Cherry, what's going on? I see you. Correction, everyone needs a little grace and mercy. I got you, Kat. Okay, Chaotic, thanks for joining us. Love is a fleeting emotion. Love is a fleeting emotion at times. I do think love can also be the inspiration that you need in order for you to power through, tough times. Love can also be can convict you of who you are and what you're about to. It can be that that shot of honesty to your character to to actually put you in a position where you're saying to yourself, wow, I didn't know that I was really this, or I felt this way. So love can be a lot of things, and you got to be very careful because it comes in a lot of different forms, by the way. Just when you thought you've experienced love in all its different facets, if you're open to it, you may be able to experience love in a different way. So, just another note on that topic. Mr. PDQ, do you want to join live? That's what Lydia asked. We got a couple minutes left. Let me know. All right. PDQ don't have any more questions. He's just paying attention. I appreciate you joining us, good brother. Make sure to list your book too, by the way. All right, on the thread, so that the people that are on here can check you out. All right. Calm Before the Storm says, not a live question, but I'm a very awkward person that does not know how to flirt back when being flirted to. What are some of the tips in flirting back to a man interested in you? So, I mean, the number one way that you can flirt with someone is through your eyes and your smile, okay? Literally, like acknowledging someone, letting them know that you see them is very, very important. Our facial expressions are very, very, very powerful. And often when someone is flirting with you, they're open, like they're opening their chest up. Literally, they're just like, I'm opening up to the idea that I need you to accept me. I need you to approve of me, right? And so when someone's flirting at you, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, hey, do you choose me? I'm choosing you. Do you choose me back? So the first thing you can do is at least acknowledge them by way of your eyes. The second thing, of course, is smiling, just smiling. You don't have to go into a long monologue or anything, but just look at them, smile, acknowledge that you see them. That's one way that you can do that. Obviously, the other thing is if you're in a space where you are communicating, right, you're networking or whatever you may call it, give that person some good conversation. Laugh with them, talk with them. You don't have to necessarily get into, flirting in a way of like, saying something that's really, creative, but a little sexy and all that good stuff. If that's not you, don't be it. Don't do it. But literally keeping it simple is the best way to go. I'm sure you can afford to smile. I'm sure you can afford to acknowledge them. I'm sure you can afford to give them a little more energy in terms of, engaging them. You don't have, when someone's interested, they're just looking for something. They're looking for a seed of hope. And so you don't have to go over the top when it comes to flirting back. All right? Cherry says, love is a verb. Love is an action. Okay, simply put. PDQ says, if I'm invited to speak my piece, I will. Of course, you're always invited, good brother. I've known Mr. PDQ for, I want to say at least 20 years or something crazy like that. So, that's my good brother. Whenever you want to go live, brother, we go live. Game over, all right? You already know. Daphne says, if you have true, real, authentic, unconditional, and careless love, you wouldn't need more than love. That's interesting. Okay, because things fall into place and you'll be willing to work things out if tough times hit. I like the idea of someone, of true, real, authentic, unconditional, and careless. But when you say careless, that's sometimes that can be challenging, because here's the only caveat to that, I would say. And that is, what you can't control where other people are, right? And that's the reason why if you follow us, often I'm talking about people healing. And when you don't heal, right, when we're not intentional about healing, well, there's a high chance that we're going to hurt people. There's a high chance that we're going to have these emotional minds, and we can actually be, detrimental to a relationship, right? The ability to actually have a healthy relationship. So what we need to do is we need to be intentional also about those other steps. Someone can love on you and have this great love and then not be reciprocated because the person that you are, right, you're not able to reciprocate at that level because there's some work to do. And so sometimes that can be, that can create a tough spot. That person can continue to love on you, and at some point you may actually reject them because you may not feel worthy of being even in that relationship. Sometimes people do go through situations where, because they're not in the same space emotionally, spiritually, it creates more of a toxic situation than you would anticipate. But these things are real, and why we need to heal is all about our ability to actually love at 100%. All right? Cherry says, if you view it as an emotion, then yeah, it is fleeting, just like anger and happiness. If you love someone, you can do it even when your emotions shift. I agree. I think that love does become, your foundation for how you move. In many ways we talk about love from a very intimate, central space, but also, you think about as a parent, you love on a child. And so, when when the child poops on himself and you're cleaning up after them, or when they wake up in the middle of the night, there are things that you do instinctually because that's just what it is. Now you love them, and that love isn't fleeting. You're doing things with them or for them that you may not necessarily ideally want to do, but your love carries you through. And so love is a verb. Love is an action. Love is also a combination of what you're feeling in your heart and in your mind, because in many ways you're making a decision to act on the love, right? And you're controlling your body in terms of what it is that you're going to do to demonstrate it. When you're demonstrating your love language, right, or demonstrating your mastery of your significant other's love language, that's again another decision that you're making. So that's the harmony between your heart and your mind to be able to actually leverage all that you are to give to someone else. And that, my friend, is like a true love, that unapologetically agape type love that we all have seen on the movie screen, and some of us have experienced in different spaces, but at the end of the day is really the gold standard. Okay, Cherry Greg says, I can smize. Okay, so good. You know how to get your flirt on then. That's what's up. All right, so we got to wrap it up. I think I got 20 seconds remaining, a.k.a. Sherry, Daphne, everybody, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys joining me. Listen, with 10 seconds left, I just want to ask that you share this with someone, all right? Every Wednesdays with Wes, all right? 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Peace.